Good morning and welcome to NYSE TV Live. I'm Trinity Chavez at the New York Stock Exchange. Now, the major averages will look to end the week on a positive note, with the S&P 500 entering today's session on a three-day winning streak. Investors will be reacting to earnings from one of the largest components on the S&P 500, and that would be Amazon, as well as a brand new data that could significantly impact the economic policy in 2025. And with that in mind, we have a busy morning ahead on NYSE TV Live. So here's what's on tap over the next hour. Investors are reacting to fresh jobs data, which came into earlier today. A pair of Wall Street experts will join me over the next hour to discuss what it means for the U.S. and the U.S. economy and how it could potentially alter the Fed rate cut. Elsewhere, the epicenter in the sports world is coming this weekend, and it's in New Orleans as the Chiefs and the Eagles prepare to battle for the Lombardi Trophy in Super Bowl 59 on Sunday. The Boys and Girls Clubs of America is telling us more about a major news announcement, and Arizona Cardinals offensive lineman Kelvin Beachum is weighing in on the biggest game matchups. Meanwhile, Titan America will become the latest company to join the NYSE community when shares begin trading later on today. The company celebrates its IPO. Will also kick off today's trading session by ringing the opening bell at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and we're going to take you there. But back to our top story, the January jobs report. Just over a half an hour ago, the Bureau of Labor Statistics released last month's data, and investors are closely examining the results ahead of the opening bell. Here's what we've learned so far. Employers added 143,000 jobs in January, and the unemployment rate fell from 4.1% to 4%. Now, to dive deeper into these numbers, giving us the first look at the labor market in 2025 is Amy Glazier, Senior Vice President at Attico. Amy, it's great to have you.
Thanks, Trinity. My pleasure.
So what's your immediate reaction to the January jobs numbers so far?
I think it continues to reflect a steady and stable market. There was quite a bit of noise in the January report as well. We had significant weather impacts with the wildfires and the Arctic blast. A little bit of calendarization with the timing of the new year. So I don't know that it's a great barometer as to what's to come, but it does highlight that we continue to see resiliency in the market and employers are still hiring and adding jobs.
And would you say that did they meet or exceed or fall short of the expectations based on what Attico has been seeing?
I think it's right in line with what we've been seeing. You know, the weather is always something nobody can predict, and it really impacted different areas of the country. So I live in Florida, so we had a great January here, but I know pockets of the Northeast, the West Coast were significantly impacted. And I think that's reflected in the report and what we saw on the ground as well.
And which industries saw the most job gains, and what were there any surprises in today's report, do you think?
No real surprises. We continue to see healthcare flourish. We will for months and years to come with the amount of baby boomers retiring and the aging workforce. Healthcare will be white hot. We did see an uptick in retail as expected, kind of with returns after the holiday season. Hospitality continues to be hot. You know, it's funny, we're sitting here in February and I'm getting notices about signing up for summer camps for my kid and vacation travel. So employers are already gearing up for hospitality in advance of the summer surge.
Now, while the overall job number is the big headline here, the unemployment rate can also play a pivotal role in Fed policy. So what is the Fed looking for here?
I think they're looking for consistency and really to see what the trends look like in the future. Again, we've had several months of just a lot of noise, whether it be weather impact, we had the election, we had strikes. So I think they're just looking for a sense where they can really get a true trend line in order to make a decision.
And wages, they also remain a key focus here. So what does today's data, does it line up with your expectations when it comes to the wages aspect?
It does. You know, we started to hear whispers of wage pressures and wage growth about November. December was a little bit quiet. We heard it pick up a little bit in January. But you've also got to remember, January is oftentimes when employers give annual increases. So we would expect in January, February, March, as year-end performance reviews are taking place and merit increases are happening, we would expect a spike in wages as well.
And looking ahead, I'm interested to hear your take on what hiring trends are emerging for February and how are employers adjusting their workflow strategies for the rest of the year.
Flexibility is key, Trinity, whether it be in that hybrid situation, work from home versus working in office in a hybrid manner or flexible scheduling. The gig workforce by 2027 is predicted to outpace the standard 40-hour-a-week worker. So employers are really looking at flexibility, that notion of just-in-time staffing and part-time flexible workforce. So we'll continue to see those trends moving into the upcoming months.
And we're also seeing a generational divide here in work preferences, with some favoring stability while others are favoring flexibility. What is driving this shift, and how are employers responding to this?
Absolutely. Trinity, for the first time in history, we had 5 generations in the workforce, all with different varying needs. I'm a Gen Xer, and a lot of folks in my generation now not only may be dealing with childcare, but also elder care with the aging workforce, same with the millennial workforce. So employers are really having to be flexible to adapt and attract all types of generations and ensure a great place in work environment.
I do want to talk to you about the concept of just-in-time staffing, and this demand is growing. What is fueling this trend, and what does it mean for both the broader business landscape, but for workers as well?
Yeah, it's driven by 2 things. One, from an employer perspective, productivity is key. Whether it be through automation, artificial intelligence gains, productivity is really what they're looking forward to. And that's driving a piece of trying to reduce overtime and really just trying to bring in staff when they need it and adjust for peaks and valleys. On the flip side, you've got the candidate and the associate and the employee who wants that flexibility. They want to be able to drop their kids off at school, take care of aging parents. My son's going to be Generation Beta, and I've got a son that's Gen Alpha, and they really are just looking they want to make an impact, they want a purpose at work, but they want flexibility and freedom and want to enjoy other things as well. So I think it's both from the employer and the employee side driving that need for flexibility.
There's also been a rising interest in trade careers, with more hiring straight out of high school. What's behind this movement, and how is Attico supporting this talent pipeline?
Yeah, great question. We're seeing a lot of candidates in high school interested not in that traditional college path, but also in a career path. We have a program at Attico called YES, and it stands for Youth Employment Solutions, where we're partnering with companies to provide work-based learning opportunities and pre-apprenticeships for 16 and 17-year-olds before they even get out of high school, so that they can have exposure to workplaces they may not traditionally have had exposure to. We're going to continue to see this need for upskilling and reskilling again as the baby boomers retire, specifically in industries like the automotive sector.
Amy, we have about 30 seconds left, but I do want to get your take on how AI is transforming the workplace. What skills are most in demand right now, and how should both workers and employers adapt to this evolving job market?
It's amazing, and it's going to transform the market. And I think what it really highlights is that need for soft skills, for empathy, for the human touch, and people that can really tap into that aspect will continue to be in demand as the AI is going to take those more tactical administrative duties off. So the ability to connect with people, to empathize, to draw out the best in them, that's going to continue to be something employers are looking for in the future. It's not just hard skills, it's the soft skills and the behavioral-based traits that are going to really be in a calling in the future.
Well, Amy, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Again, Amy Glazier, Senior Vice President at Attico. Now, coming up, the NFL has been a proud partner of the Boys and Girls Clubs of America for over 40 years. The organization's National Vice President of Advocacy and Government Relations is joining us live to tell us more about a major announcement, so stay tuned for that.
Today we're taking you behind the scenes of Summit One Vanderbilt. This extraordinary destination offers stunning views and immersive experiences, providing a truly unique perspective on a city that never sleeps. That was the most incredible elevator ride I've ever experienced.
Yes.
How long did it take us to get up here?
35 seconds to go from the ground floor all the way up to the 91st floor. It's pretty incredible.
Pretty incredible, and the experience starts the moment you step into the elevator.
Absolutely. We take you from one room and one experience to another to help transition you. And right now in the Hall of Light, we're about ready to go into Transcendence. You ready to go in?
I'm ready.
Perfect.
Let's go.
Let's do this.
Wow, this room is amazing.
Wow is right. We are in Transcendence. We are on the 91st floor here in One Vanderbilt. and this room truly is spectacular. It's probably one of the most Instagram locations in the entire world. We are in probably the most famous and most sought after room in all of Summit. We're in Affinity. And what this really speaks to is Kenzo's vision of play. By no means is One Vanderbilt or Summit an area of being passive. We encourage you, we want you to be part of the installation. Here, you become actually involved within the installation of the space. Obviously, from the balloons themselves, people that come into this space are able to make it their own. They're able to come through and actually see the world in a much different component. They really are. It's a unique view that you're not going to get anywhere else in the world. I would even encourage you, quite frankly, to help come through with me. So we have people who come here who automatically know where they want to stand, what they want to wear, and quite frankly, the type of picture they want to take, because they know it's going to be shared all across the world. And that's the most amazing thing here. People are evangelizing the product for us. They're evangelizing the Summit brand. And in doing so,
welcome back to NYSE TV Live. I'm Trinity Chavez in studio at the New York Stock Exchange. Now, big news coming out in just the past 24 hours. NFL and Boys and Girls Clubs of America are sending young change makers to Super Bowl 59 to advocate for important causes. Here to discuss the impact of this exciting initiative is Chastity Mitchell. She is the National VP of Advocacy and Government Relations at Boys and Girls Clubs of America. Chastity, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
So what inspired the partnership between the Boys and Girls Clubs of America and the NFL to bring youth advocates to Super Bowl?
That's right. Well, so for more than 40 years, the Boys and Girls Clubs of America and NFL have been proud partners with each other. More recently, the Inspire Change initiative, which supports our Think, Learn, Create, Change initiative that inspires young people to become effective advocates, really has come together to support this exciting partnership that is bringing young change makers, giving them the skills to be effective advocates, and having really cool, unique experiences to put their advocacy in partnership with the help of NFL and Inspire Change.
And how do you think these young change makers will impact their communities after the experience at Super Bowl 59?
Well, it's really part of a year-long initiative. And so this is one of the culminations of the work that they've been doing within their community over the last year. Through the Inspire Change partnership, they've learned how to become effective advocates. They have worked on projects around social justice issues, things like mental health, things like community safety. And so through this experience, they'll be able to learn more how to put their advocacy work into practice, and get to partner with unique experiences like seeing the Super Bowl in action.
And how does this initiative align with the Boys and Girls Club's mission of empowering youth and promoting leadership at the same time?
That's right. Well, we know that 81% of young people know that they can be change makers in their community. They're looking for experiences, opportunities, and platforms to be able to put that practice into work. And so programs like Think, Learn, Create, Change, partnering with the NFL and Inspire Change, gives them exactly that effort to be able to do that. One of the really cool things that they've been doing to earn this opportunity is the Inspire Change Badge Challenge. And so not only have they been practicing their advocacy skills in their community, going to Washington to put that into practice, but they also are continuing to learn different aspects of becoming strong, effective advocates through this digital online platform.
And what role do government relations and advocacy play in supporting programs like this? How can policymakers help on a bigger stage?
What a great question. I think that what we find so powerful working with our young people as advocates is that our policymakers, elected officials, they really want to hear what's happening in their communities. They want to hear that firsthand lived experience of their constituents. And working with Boys and Girls Clubs and the youth in communities and clubs throughout the country, it really gives them that opportunity to hear firsthand the experiences of young people in our country and hear from their lived experiences. And when folks tell their story, that is what's most powerful when you work with elected officials, and that's what they want to hear as they're making those important policy decisions.
And what impact do you hope this experience will have on the participating youth and the future of leadership roles?
Well, I'm so excited to be able to watch these young people see this Super Bowl experience come to life. They are so excited. They're traveling in this afternoon, and many of them, this is a once in a lifetime experience, right? And so, also once in a lifetime experience that they've had through this partnership is to go to Washington and advocate. And so, seeing opportunities on both sides of that spectrum to be able to do their advocacy within their community, to be able to go to Washington and practice their advocacy, and now the ultimate experience of going to the Super Bowl and be rewarded for the hard work that they've done through the Inspire Change Badge Challenge is sort of the ultimate full circle moment to see it all come to fruition for them.
And I do want to ask you about next steps. How do you see the partnership with the NFL evolving into further support and youth empowerment and advocacy?
Right. So, as I mentioned, we have had a long-standing partnership with the NFL. And through the Inspired Change partnership, it really is such an authentic partnership, both from the NFL perspective and Boys and Girls Clubs of America. We both care about inspiring young people to be change makers and to be able to recognize all of the opportunities that are ahead of them. And so because this is such a unique partnership, we hope to continue to see it grow, to really expand on opportunities, to have more young people be exposed to the program and things like the online badge challenge.
Well, Chastity, thank you so much. Where are you going to be watching the big game on Sunday?
Well, I'm not going with the young people to the game, so I'll be watching it down the street.
I know I'll probably be watching it somewhere too. I wish I could have been there on the ground for the Super Bowl, but hey, there's, maybe next time.
We'll live vicariously through them.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Chastity Mitchell, National Vice President of Advocacy and Government Relations at the Boys and Girls Clubs of America.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll stay in New Orleans as the business of sports ramps up ahead of the big game. So stick around. You both are coming to the exchange today to share the major news announcement. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so we just passed 200 million in annual recurring revenue, and I met you last time 15 months ago when we made the first announcement, and so we're super excited. We're growing 70% year over year, and it's just due to the amazing success that we're providing to our customers.
Abby, would you like to add to that?
Such a whirlwind being at Cribble. I'm so proud of us, and to take 4 years to get to 100 million and then start, double it in 14 months is pretty exciting space to be in.
That's hugely significant, especially the time period that it all occurred. So what would you attribute this momentum to, and how do you think they're going to continue to leverage this fundraise?
First of all, back to the customers, it's about the value that we provide to them. It's an underserved segment. It is people who are running the systems that run the business, and the top growing companies in the public markets are growing at 30%. We're growing at 70%, and it is all back on the value that we provide to customers.
Abby, from your vantage point, how are you going to continue this momentum with growing those client relationships as well as enhancing your bottom line?
Well, our number one value at Cribble is to be customers first always, and we're constantly focused on how can we do the next thing that solves the problem that nobody else is solving for them. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about is that when we talk about our solutions and our ability to provide a data engine specific to IT and security, one of the gaps that we had was that we were able to provide analysis, but not in real time. And we have an exciting product announcement coming up that I'm going to let Clint talk about a little bit.
You beat me to the punch. I'm so excited to hear about the new product. Tell me about it, Clint.
This is an add-on to our Lake product called Lake House. As Abby mentioned, the biggest gap was I need to be able to ask and answer questions of data that's arriving right now, and I need that to be fast. I need my dashboards to go quickly. I need my alerts to fire really, really quickly. And so with our new offering in Lake House, we can start.
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live. I'm Trinity Chavez. While the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles will take good care of business on Sunday on the field, there's plenty of business taking place off the field as well. For example, companies are paying a pretty penny when it comes to advertisement for just a little bit of screen time. Brands are reportedly spending upwards of $8 million for a 30-second commercial spot during the big game. Meanwhile, the American Gaming Association says that it's anticipating U.S. bettors to legally wager a record $1.39 billion on Sunday's matchup. Joining me now to talk more about the business behind the Super Bowl is Dan Roberts, editor-in-chief at Front Office Sports. Dan, it's great to have you.
Morning.
Now, there's been a lot of major developments when it comes to the NFL and media, but perhaps the biggest has been Tom Brady's first year in the booth for Fox. He'll be on the call this weekend, so how much pressure is on Brady and Fox to deliver?
Well, I think there is pressure on Brady, especially because there's so many critics who said that he hasn't been very good so far. I do think he's improved a great deal over the season. It's a 10-year contract with Fox, not to mention that there's a potential conflict of interest because Tom Brady now owns 5% of the Las Vegas Raiders. So I think a lot of people thought that when that ownership stake went through, they wouldn't let him call Raiders games. That is not the case. The NFL has said it doesn't see a conflict. Brady and others have said they don't see a conflict. But performance aside, that's a major storyline. Yesterday here at our FOS live set, we got a chance to talk to Greg Olson, who of course was in that #1 spot on Fox's NFL broadcast team, got bumped down to the #2 team for Tom Brady. And Olson kind of used the opportunity to clear the air a little bit. He said, you know, my own comments have been misconstrued. That's probably my fault. I'm not angry at Fox. I'm not angry at Tom, but I have called one Super Bowl, and my aim is to call more of them, which shouldn't be earth-shattering headline news. So it depends who you ask here, but a lot of people think Greg Olson should be the one in that slot. How much pressure is on Brady to do a good job during the Super Bowl? Some, but I don't think that if he doesn't do a great job and if critics are harsh, it means that Fox won't bring him back. He has a 10-year contract, and it's sort of up to him whether he walks or not. If you want my opinion, if he walks long before that 10-year contract is over, he's going to use his Raiders ownership stake as the excuse. That gives him an out. He can say, I really want to focus on my role with the Raiders.
And we've seen a lot with the NFL, especially when it comes to the NFL gain even more yardage in the streaming space. Now, this year especially with Christmas doubleheader on Netflix and a playoff game exclusively on Prime Video. So is the league's media strategy working when it comes to viewership? I think that there's going to be over 120 million people who are expected to tune in this year.
Yeah, in some ways, it's the most fascinating question about the NFL, right? And yesterday we had the chance to interview two different NFL execs, Hans Schroeder, who heads up media, and Brian Rolap, who does media distribution and scheduling. And both of them address the exclusive streaming games. I've written a lot about the fragmentation headaches that some people feel. In other words, there's a lot of people who they're looking for the game, and when it's exclusive to Netflix or exclusive to Amazon Prime or exclusive to Peacock, they can't find it. And it's kind of head spinning, but if you're the NFL, it's all about reach. And that's what these NFL execs will tell you is we're not trying to give an exclusive game to some streaming app that no one has. You know, Brian Rolap even said, we know you're all on Amazon. We know you all have Netflix. So in other words, they're not going to give it to Apple TV Plus if they don't feel like it has the reach, or Hulu. But certainly you're right that there are more games exclusive to streaming than ever before. And I think it's a sign that the NFL feels like it needs to get that next group of people. You said 120 million people watched the last Super Bowl. Soon they're basically hitting a peak in America, and that's why I think you're also seeing the NFL expand abroad more than ever before. They've announced that there's going to be a game played in Australia next year. More games played outside the U.S. than ever before. So the NFL needs to constantly get bigger, and I think it kind of feels like it is approaching a saturation point in the U.S. So you're only going to see more fragmentation of its media rights.
Now, there's also another part of NFL's recent strategy that's quite interesting, leaning into sports betting, which began doing so right in 2021. How has the leagues continued to embrace sports betting, especially when it comes to partners, and how has this benefited the overall business?
Well, guys, I'm right here on Radio Row at the Super Bowl. We've been here since Monday. I think you have some good depth of field here in the shot. Everywhere you look is DraftKings and FanDuel. no joke, the biggest build-outs, the largest live sets. I'm looking at DraftKings and Ross Tucker and the Golix. I'm looking at FanDuel and the Kay Adams show. I'm looking at DraftKings, FanDuel. And so that is just to say that the league has truly embraced partnerships with these betting companies. And these two companies are sponsoring everything in sports media. Now, I think something has to give there, and it kind of can't last forever. But you're right, it really hit an acceleration point in the last couple of years. Years ago when I was at Fortune magazine, I covered the rise of DraftKings and FanDuel very closely. At first, they were daily fantasy sports companies, DFS. And they said, we're not betting operators. But of course, they saw the writing on the wall. They were very smart. They knew that the federal ban on sports betting, which was PASPA, P-A-S-P-A, would be struck down eventually. And in 2018, it was. But the NFL was still the league that dragged its heels the longest. It really held off from embracing sports betting until it finally did. And once it did embrace it, it really went all in. So legal betting is on the rise. But remember, most of the betting still happens in the dark, so to speak. People who were already bettors long before they legalized it. It's going to continue to be a big story. And we're seeing some issues with the embrace of betting. Look at the scandals we've seen with the NBA and with MLB, the Shohei Ohtani translator, a number of ripple effects.
Dan, and talking about big stories, we have about 60 seconds left here, but I do want to get your take on another big story that you've been covering lately, which is the intersection of the NFL and private equity. What more should our viewers know, and how can it reshape the franchises in the future?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. In some ways, it doesn't affect the average fan. Most of these new private equity owners in a team, you're never going to see them. They're behind the scenes. It's a way for your team to just get an infusion of extra capital. Now, in some cases, it is more prominent people. But, when the Dolphins announced that a PE firm has taken a 10% stake, or the Bills announced that a PE firm has taken a 10% stake, it's not going to affect the fan. Similar to sports betting, the NFL actually held off the longest. The other leagues, MLB, NBA, they've allowed private equity ownership stakes for years, and actually larger percent stakes. The NFL has capped it at 10%. What it means for you, the fan, is your team gets more investment and your team probably gets a higher valuation. For the private equity guys, it's a way to get in, have a box at an NFL team. And, no investment is ever guaranteed, but owning a piece of an NFL team is pretty close to it. Anyone can probably turn that around in 2 to 4 years and get more money than they bought it for. So it's the NFL opening its arms to more investment.
A lot to look out for. Thank you again, Dan Roberts, Editor-in-Chief at Front Office Sports. Now don't go anywhere. Titan America will celebrate its IPO by ringing the opening bell up next.
What changed in Unanchored is the advent of geolocation data on cell phones. And this was largely unavailable until, call it 2018, 2019. That data is so robust that you no longer have to only rely on tenant sales that are reported by the tenant. Now you can rely on customer traffic from cell phone data, which is incredibly robust, and it allows landlords to have information that we didn't have before. That, to me, is what really crossed the Rubicon between private investors making a local bet on convenience properties to now institutions, and us being the only public institution, really, being able to make a thesis that has math behind it that I think is convincing and durable. How frequently do you run an errand to go out at lunch and go to Chipotle? Do you go to the ATM at Wells Fargo? Does somebody in your family get your nails done? Do you go to the barber shop? These are running errands. These are not going shopping. For you to run errands, convenience is key. You want speed, access, and you want it to be in a timely manner. What we've really proven, and this is really through the data analytics, is that going shopping and running errands are two distinct, different property types. And being different property types, they deserve to have their own asset class for effectively running errands. And I'll give you some statistics. 2/3 of the customers that come onto our properties at Curbline are on our asset less than 7 minutes. That's not a going shopping experience. That's not lingering longer. We're not placemaking. We're not making a place where you linger forever or you multiple shop. We want a place that is right up on the road, easy to your house, and you're in and out. That is the biggest asset management question. Do you renew a tenant, or do you replace the tenant? And so this is not an occupancy business where you buy vacant buildings and you lease them up. You're buying fully leased buildings, and the question is always every single year, are you going to renew this tenant, or are you going to kick them out and replace them? And that.
Well, there we go. The final trading day of the week is officially underway. Right now, we're looking at about a mixed open as traders and investors are still digesting the new numbers that came out just about an hour ago. 143,000 jobs were added to the U.S. economy, as well as unemployment falling to 4% from 4.1%. We'll be covering that throughout the show. Now, joining us now to break it all down and to discuss how to navigate these changes is Jonathan Dane, founder and chief investment officer at Defiant Capital Group. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Great, thank you. So, we've been talking about it throughout the show. The January jobs report came out just about an hour ago. What are your biggest takeaways from the results?
We looked at the report and it said a lot of the things that we thought we already knew that were happening in the economy, and it solidified them. So one, the unemployment rate is going down. For us, the biggest thing has been this labor market. How strong is it? Is it resilient going forward? And so while there were some revisions to it, and yes, the numbers came in a little bit weaker than expected, overall, this is still a strong labor market. The unemployment rate going down, in fact, wage prices are going up. And so when you see all of these things happening, the unemployment numbers are the biggest thing to us. The participation rate went up, and that's really what's driving these things. And so we think it represents we're still in a strong economy. Obviously, the curve is moving in that same manner too. And so we look at it and think the economy is on a good path going forward, and that the Fed has a really tough decision ahead of it.
And going into today, we understand that you believe that there are key indicators to watch that could signal a significant pullback. Tell us more about this.
Yeah. For us, we're really watching the labor market. The first sign of weakness that we see there is going to be the time to start pumping the brakes. So we're watching that every day. The other thing that we're watching is the spread between the 2 and the 10-year on the Treasury curve. Right now, you still have this gap between the two where the short end of the curve is telling us, hey, we might be in for some more inflation. You need to watch, you need to take a step back. Meanwhile, the long end of the curve is telling us that the economy may be slowing down. There's a disconnect between the two. And so we're watching those very closely. And then on top of that, we continue to watch the Trump administration's policies because in and of themselves, they are very inflationary and biased. And so we're watching to see what happens as Trump continues to put his policy into play, as the deportations happen, as he reduces the size of the government. How does that impact the labor market?
And could the combination of a weakening labor market and inflationary pressures lead to stagflation? What factors do you think we would need to align for that to occur?
Right. It's a big concern of ours right now. I would say it's the biggest thing that we're focused on because you have a three-headed storm of pieces coming together. As we talked about the labor market, you have price pressure on the consumer from potential tariffs. So how is that going to impact the end consumer? And then you have the Fed and Trump trying to push the Fed to lower rates. And so if we look at all those things together, you have what's brewing, the potential for the labor market to slow, which would drive the economy slower. And yet we're in an environment now where because of the policies, because of lower rates, we have inflation skyrocketing. And that's a real concern of ours, and it's something we're going to be watching, not right now, but more towards the back half of this year.
And we touched on it a little bit earlier on, but the Treasury yield curve is showing concerns about inflation and slowing growth. How do you interpret these movements, and what does it tell us about the market outlook for the broader economy?
Right. The yield curve is everything that we need to watch right now. And if you look at today's moves, everything is moving up together. So what it tells us is that people are looking at today's numbers and there's no real read through them because you can't tell from today's numbers if there's anything going on. But if you looked at it from the end of January to the beginning of February, what we saw is the short end continuing to move up and the long end continuing to come down. And that to us is saying there is that disconnect. There is this gap where longer term we think the economy is slowing, shorter term inflation is here. And that's really what we're focused on is how much does that gap continue to change?
From your vantage point, how should investors adjust their portfolios in light of these potential inflationary pressures and a slowing economy? What sectors or asset classes should they be focusing on?
So if we start with where to position your equity portfolio, as we think the economy is strong, we want our clients to be in equities. Energy remains a great trade for us. You have tailwinds from the AI trade. A lot of the news coming out about DeepSeek is really becoming they did this for a lot of money. There's still a huge demand for energy. There's still a huge demand for AI data centers and chips. And we think energy is the vertically integrated way to play that from top to bottom. Inside investor portfolios, though, we're really focused on, if you have a diversified portfolio and you want to hedge against risk in the economy, look at your fixed income and potentially adjust that. Move into shorter duration vehicles. Put some tips in there. Put the pieces in place that, one, take advantage of this lower inflationary environment right now, but two, as inflation ticks up, you're not going to get hurt. You actually benefit from it.
Jonathan, we have about 60 seconds left here, but given the Trump administration's policies, you believe that large cap U.S. equities will continue to perform well. How do you think that these policies specifically benefit mega cap stocks, and which industries are best positioned for maximum growth?
If you're investing in the equity market right now, mega caps are where to be. We think that the policies, the way they're designed, the way they're being implemented, the biggest companies will continue to win. If you look at the new personnel being put into the administration, into the government, we think the big companies win. The Mag 7, there's a lot of gas coming out of them now. That is a short-term speed bump. We think they still continue to perform. We're not seeing any indications they don't. I mentioned before energy. We really like energy right now. We think it just has so many hedges, from inflation to the tailwinds in the economy. So we're pushing clients to be in all those places right now.
Thanks again for all of that key insight, Jonathan Dane, founder and chief investment officer at Defiant Capital Group.
Thank you.
Now still to come, Nano Nuclear Energy just hit $1 billion market cap and acquired cutting-edge microreactor tech. Founder and chairman Jay Yu is joining me live to talk about what's ahead for nuclear innovation. Later on in the show, NFL offensive lineman Kelvin Beachum is joining me to break down the X's and O's between the Chiefs and the Eagles and gives us his big game prediction. And today is National Wear Red Day, which raises awareness for heart disease. Our Judy Shaw sat down with Star Jones and Tamara Hall to discuss how they're helping promote this message with the American Heart Association. Stick around.
Welcome to Floor Talk. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Josie, congratulations are in order. You are part of the Buffalo Bills ownership group. Now, it was a great weekend for you this past weekend.
Amazing weekend, yes.
Had the family with you to celebrate a win. So tell me, what drew you to this opportunity and how does it fit with your goals?
Yeah, so the process started for me actually back in 2018. I originally had set out to put a group together to purchase the Real Salt Lake soccer team. And it was through that experience where I was approached by a representative from the NFL asking if this is something that I'd be interested in, as the league was looking to be more diverse in the type of LPs they accepted. So right away, I fell in love with the opportunity, and it went quickly, but I'm happy it did. And it's an honor to be a part of such a world-class organization.
Now, you're also involved in ventures like TGL, SailGP, and Footy Market. So tell me, how do you choose what to pursue, and what's your vision as an entrepreneur?
I tried to stick to things that I'm passionate about. And Footy Market is a gear exchange where you can buy and sell used gear online. And that one was close to my heart, being that I spent, my whole life dedicated to soccer. And I'm a big fan of emerging sports. TGL is obviously, golf has been around a long time, but TGL is like a new variation of the game, right? Trying to give viewers a different experience. And then SailGP is more of the same. It's something that we've known people are passionate about in terms of sailing, but now trying to package it all as a league and an emerging sport is something different. So super excited at all of my ventures and things that I work on. And, for me, it's another way of being on a team. It replaces being on, a field. So I've been having a ton of fun, and, it's just the start.
And Josie, as you grow your business portfolio, how are you building a legacy that's beyond?
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live. I'm Trinity Chavez in studio at the Exchange. Now, Nano Nuclear Energy is making big moves, hitting $1 billion market cap, acquiring ultra-safe nuclear's microreactor tech, and working with the U.S. Department of Energy. Joining us now is the founder and executive chairman, Jay Yu, to discuss what's next for nuclear innovation. Jay, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me today.
So what do you think has driven your recent success, and how do you plan to sustain this momentum?
I think At Nano Nuclear, we've been very dynamic with how we've approached the market acquisitions. We were able to acquire one of the highest technology readiness level small reactors in America. UltraSafe went bankrupt. That was an awful situation for them, but we were able to come in with our technical experts, engineers, and former U.S. national leaders to assess this. And because of that, we were able to acquire this. And now it puts us right in the lead with others in the U.S. And for us to sustain this, I think one of the areas is growth into demonstration. So we currently are going to reestablish our relationship with the University of Illinois, and that will help expedite this and take us to the physical demonstration of the company.
Yeah, can you elaborate more on what this acquisition means for the future of Nano and the broader nuclear energy sector?
I think it'll give us a expedited pace to reach a commercial reactor in the future. What that means is you go through a university and you build a test reactor there. You could get that licensed by the NRC much faster than a commercial means. So proving that technology out, demonstrating it with a partner, and then taking that prototype and all the paperwork, licensing, and then resubmitting that for a commercial product. So I think that is the ultimate goal to reaching a faster microreactor product in the world.
And with the U.S. government pushing for faster approval times under the new administration, how do you see nuclear energy's regulatory landscape evolving in the near term? And will this accelerate the adoption of microreactors?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think with the new administration, you know, one of the themes here is unleashing American energy. And right now, with the new appointment of the Secretary of Energy, he was actually on the board of an advanced reactor company. So he already has that DNA, I would say, and understanding of what needs to be done with the regulatory aspect in nuclear. And under the previous administration, the Advance Act also helped break down walls here, because that Advance Act helped with expediting regulatory approvals, helping put the NRC in a hot seat almost to acknowledge that we have to change and reform here in order to unleash this American energy, and especially this nuclear renaissance.
And Jay, your microreactors are designed for disaster relief, military applications, as well as off-grid communities, including your recent expansion into Africa. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
But how does this technology change the way that we think about energy accessibility and resilience?
Well, with a microreactor, especially a portable one like we're building with our Odin reactor and our team from Cambridge University in the UK, what happens here is you're truly able to scale nuclear. You'll be able to bring it to remote areas, like you said, in Africa, where you could provide desalination, powering mining operations. You talked about natural disaster relief. So Governor Cuomo is on our advisory board, and during his time, he sent Con Edison trucks from New York to Puerto Rico to help build back its grid there. But he rather had a microreactor versus diesel generators there. So you're looking at helping combating climate change, providing clean energy, and also that base load energy that people need immediately, right? Without refueling it for many years.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing the big news. We always enjoy having you on the show. Again, Jay Yu, founder and executive chairman at Nano Nuclear Energy.
Thank you for having me.
Now coming up, we'll dive deeper into Sunday's Super Bowl matchup and find out where the game will be won and lost on the field when we come back. Money 2020 in Las Vegas, one of the big key topics of today's discussions and panels, obviously, with blockchain, cryptocurrency, and the regulation around that. Talk to me about what you're seeing right now in the sector.
I think that the sector is definitely maturing, at least globally, to the point of mass adoption. Of course, like we've been seeing this first and foremost in crypto adoption globally, that I think outside of the US, we are seeing a lot of countries, whether it's Europe, Latin America, and Asia, putting fairly good regulation in place. And on the back of that regulation, we are seeing a lot of adoption. I think that the most interesting part right now is that we are seeing a lot of adoption of stable coins for payments, which is very relevant for this conference, of course. But on Fireblocks, now more than 50% of the volume that we are processing, which is about this year, we're going to process $2.5 trillion worth of assets that are going to move through the platform. More than 50%, so 1.25 trillion, is actually stable coins, which is used for international cross-border payments.
Can you tell me more about what your expansion plans are from your vantage point, especially when it comes to DeFi?
DeFi has been at the forefront of what we were doing at Fireblocks. We have several hundreds of clients that are interacting with DeFi through the platform because it gives them better liquidity, better opportunities. And what we are been doubling down on is two main things in DeFi. The first one is to provide secure access and to enhance the security around DeFi. So as most people that are somehow familiar with the space, a lot of the hacks and a lot of the issues that we were seeing in crypto are related to DeFi. So creating the perimeter around the security and compliance that such that it's...
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live. I'm Trinity Chavez. Now here's a sports trivia fact for you. Only one Super Bowl has ever featured a rematch of the previous year's game. The Cowboys and the Bills in Super Bowl 28, which took place in the 1990s. The second shortest span between a Super Bowl rematch, well, this year's game between the Chiefs and the Eagles. Joining me now for more on what we can expect when the two teams take the field, Arizona Cardinals offensive lineman Kelvin Beachum. Kelvin, it's great to have you.
Thanks so much for having me.
So one thing missing from this matchup 2 years ago, Saquon Barkley is the Eagles' all-pro running back, the biggest X factor in this game, would you say?
Without question. But many people don't know that it always starts in the trenches. So when you think about this offensive line going against the Kansas City defensive line, I think that's where the game will be won. But having that X factor in Saquon is going to be something special to see this weekend.
And for our viewers who may be more casual NFL fans, let's say, what makes both teams so difficult to game plan against?
You know, when you're playing against Patrick Mahomes, you have to realize that you don't want him to have the ball to end the game. So no matter if he has the ball to start the game, to end the game, he is somebody that's going to make something special happen. When you think about that defense that Kansas City has, they are willing to put it all on the line when it matters the most, and have really forced teams to make bad decisions and just inopportune times throughout the game. And then when you think about the Eagles are just playing lights out on offense. The way in which they're running the ball, controlling the game, controlling the line of scrimmage, it really gives them a shot at being able to kind of keep defenses at bay. So it's going to be interesting to see this matchup between this great running game that the Eagles have and this great passing and aerial attack that the Kansas City Chiefs have.
Now let's dig a little deeper here. As an offensive lineman, you would be tasked with containing the likes of Chiefs All-Pro defensive linemen, Chris Jones, or Eagle standout Jalen Carter. What makes blocking these players so challenging?
You know, the thing is both of those guys play inside, meaning they're on the interior part of your offensive line, so they can really press the pocket and really disrupt the depth of the pocket. So what's going to be interesting is to see how both offensive lines handle those interior guys. Are they going to slide to them, meaning are they going to send more attention their way, or are they going to leave a one-on-one? The thing is both interior offensive lines for both teams have very good offensive linemen to block those defensive linemen. So Trey Smith for the Kansas City Chiefs, Mekhi Becton for the Eagles. It's going to be interesting to see those two offensive guards handle those defensive linemen for Kansas City and the Eagles.
Meantime, Patrick Mahomes will look to lead the Chiefs to a third straight Super Bowl title. If he succeeds, do you place him above Tom Brady as the greatest of all time?
That puts him in conversation. I am not somebody that likes to label individuals. Every generation, every couple years, there are some people that play just amazing football. Patrick Mahomes is playing amazing football right now. Tom Brady played amazing football during his time. Joe Montana
played amazing football during his time. And I think each era has somebody special that you can look to. And I think within the era that I've played, I've been able to play with both and play against both. Played against Tom Brady when he was there with the Patriots and the Buccaneers, and have played against, Patrick Mahomes, and they are special for our particular generation. So I think they deserve the credit that they have within the generation that they've played in.
Kelvin, what's a matchup or storyline on the field that you feel is going unreported, let's say, or could play a big role in determining who wins the game?
Many people don't talk about Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson is playing lights out at this age. He's in my class, so I came in the 2012 draft class. Lane Johnson was right after me in the 2013 draft class. And he's playing lights out right now. So that matchup that he's going to have over whoever's coming and playing over the right tackle is going to be interesting. But that's a storyline that many people don't want to talk about. I'm an offensive lineman, so I'm always going to talk about the offensive line plays that are taking place in these big games.
So I'm interested to hear your take. What's your prediction for the big game? You want to drop it? Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit.
You put me on the spot. I'm gonna go with the Eagles. Fly, yeah. Eagles fly. Even though I'm not an Eagles fan, the thing is when you think about offensive line play and the ability to run the ball and control the game, I really do feel that the Eagles have that upper hand. And the thing is all Saquon needs is a little sliver of light, and he can take it to the house, which I think will bode well for the Eagles long term.
Amazing. Well, we're definitely going to be tuning in to see if your prediction is right, and maybe we'll have you back on the show to talk about it. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure speaking with you, Arizona Cardinals offensive lineman Kelvin Beachum. Now, in other news, today is National Wear Red Day, where people wear the color red to show their support for the awareness of heart disease. Our own Judy Shaw recently spoke with Star Jones and Tamron Hall, who rang the closing bell with the American Heart Association last week. Check it out.
Star, Tamron, welcome to Floor Talk. It's wonderful to have you both on the show today.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having us.
We are here on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Thank you very much. I feel important.
Now, you're not just on the floor, but you just rang the closing bell to celebrate American Heart Month. What was it like to be up there on the podium ringing the bell?
When it comes to women's heart health and women's health in general, making people aware of our risk across the board, we decided to partner this year for the American Heart Association to put women's health on the front burner. And so today we got to launch Heart Health Month for the American Heart Association as the national volunteer for literally the last 14 years. This has been my personal purpose and mission in life. And to be able to bring it to the attention of the masses is something that I will treasure, and I thank you all for having us.
Absolutely. So, Star, tell me, what inspired you to advocate for women's heart health with the American Heart Association?
When it comes to health, when it starts to affect you and your family and your friends, then it becomes very personal. And for me, I actually had open heart surgery. They cracked my chest and disconnected my heart for 22 minutes. That'll wake you up. And I'm supposed to be the smart one. I'm supposed to be the one that brings the information to my audience. But even I didn't know that heart disease was the #1 killer of women, the #1 killer of African Americans, the #1 killer of Americans, beating all forms of cancer combined. And it still is 14 years later.
Now, Tamron, tell me, why is raising awareness about women's heart health so important to you?
I was so proud to see Star gavel at the end of the closing bell, because I know this journey, the work that she does on behalf of all women, on behalf of all families. I lost my Aunt Josephine a few years ago. I have a mom who's now 75 years old. I am 55 with a 5-year-old. That'll make you wake up. We are lucky enough to have Emmys and all these great things. And yes, I name drop that. But the best thing in the world that you can do is reach your hand out and use your voice to save another person. And that's what we're here for.
Now, Star, many women don't realize that heart disease is their biggest health threat. So tell me, what is your key message to them?
When I was diagnosed, I thought it was an old white dude's disease. Somebody eating steak, smoking a cigar, throwing back whiskey. That's not the face of heart disease. The face of heart disease is anybody that's around here in this room. The Go Red for Women movement has always been about telling women to put their own health on their own front burner. Start to focus on your own numbers. Start to look at how you're eating. Are you getting the requisite amount of exercise? Make sure you get enough sleep. All of that goes in to place to making you the healthiest you can be. If mama not healthy, nobody's healthy in the whole house. Then the woman of the house is the one that helps to make sure the house is healthy. So let's get your house in order.
Tamara, to Star's point, women often do put their own health last. So tell me, how can we encourage more women to prioritize heart health?
I think it's building a community. It's having open conversations. Just the other day, I opened a text message from Star, and she's reminding me, take care of yourself. Are you sleeping? It really is stepping up for each other. We just saw the Surgeon General not long ago talk about the loneliness epidemic. It's more important than ever for our hearts, for our health, to try to build a community, even if it's someone at your office that you chat with from time to time. Maybe skip talking about the Real Housewives for the second tier of the conversation and ask about how you're doing. And I love that, because we can build communities sometimes in spaces and places we don't even realize that we have them available to us.
Amazing. Well, an important message that you're sharing here for women and really for everyone when it comes to heart health. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been wonderful to have you both on the show.
Very happy to be here. So happy to have another woman wearing red.
I know, ravishing in red.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Go red.
And thanks to Judy Shaw for that interview. In other news, school districts here in New York metropolitan area had closings or delays on Thursday due to inclement weather, and the NYSE isn't immune to such decisions. On this day in history, February 7th, 1967, a blizzard raged through the city and dumped 12.5 inches of snow on the streets in 12 hours, adding to snowfall from the previous day. As a result, the NYSE's trading day was curtailed. The exchange opened 15 minutes late and closed 90 minutes early in an attempt to save the staff from traveling home in steadily worsening conditions. Now we're just about to wrap up today's show. Again, investors and traders are still digesting those new job numbers that came out at 8:30 a.m. this morning, as 143,000 jobs added to the U.S. market. We're going to continue to cover market updates throughout the week next week. But for now, that does it for us on NYSE TV Live. For everyone who is watching, I'm Trinity Chavez, signing off.
Thank you for being innovators in the market. Thank you for all you do every day to show the world what best in class truly means.
We are incredibly proud to join the ranks of other highly successful companies who partnered with this legendary institution.
What a time to be here. I am so proud of what we're doing. This is a huge milestone for our business. There's a lot of people responsible for getting to where we are today.
We have a role to play in bridging the gaps that exist today between us.
Not many people get to do something big in this world, and we get to do something truly special.
This is such a wonderful place to both look back and look forward. I'm so optimistic about what lies ahead. It has been a privilege to be with you.